Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world where physical and spiritual realms coexist. While we often focus on the things we can see, touch, and hear, there is an invisible battle raging, a battle for our hearts, minds, and homes. Since the beginning of time, an unseen battle has been taking place, a conflict that is not fought with swords or shields, but within the very fabric of the spiritual realm. This war is not waged by earthly armies, nor is it confined to distant lands. It is a battle that affects every soul, every family, and every home. It is a conflict between the forces of good and evil, light and darkness, truth and deception. Many go through life unaware of the gravity of this war, assuming that what they see with their physical eyes is all that exists. But the truth is, the spiritual realm is just as real, if not more so, than the tangible world around us. Throughout history, humanity has been caught in the middle of this ongoing struggle. From the earliest accounts of creation, we see evidence of this war in the fall of man, when deception entered the hearts of the first people. Since then, the battle has only intensified. The forces of darkness work tirelessly, seeking to influence, manipulate, and control, using every possible means to gain a foothold in the lives of individuals and within their homes. They do not operate with loud announcements or obvious threats. Rather, they work subtly, weaving their influence into the fabric of daily life, often going unnoticed until their presence is deeply rooted. The battlefield of this war is not limited to the external world. It is waged within the hearts and minds of people. Thoughts, emotions, and desires are often targeted by the forces of darkness, who seek to lead individuals away from truth and into confusion, despair, and destruction. They disguise their work through things that appear harmless, entertainment, media, objects, and even ideologies that seem innocent on the surface but carry hidden dangers beneath. These forces are cunning, preying on weaknesses, doubts, and fears, using them as entry points to gain control. The reality of this warfare is evident in the struggles people face daily. Many experience overwhelming fear, depression, anxiety, and a sense of heaviness that seems to have no logical explanation. Families are torn apart, relationships crumble, and peace is replaced with chaos. These are not just coincidences or natural consequences. Many times they are the result of unseen influences that have been given access to operate freely. The enemy thrives in darkness, and his greatest weapon is deception, convincing people that he does not exist, or that his influence is insignificant. This battle is not one that can be fought with human strength alone. No amount of wealth, education, or status can shield a person from the attacks that come from the spiritual realm. The enemy does not discriminate. He seeks to devour anyone who is unaware or unprotected. He uses the things people bring into their homes, the media they consume, and the philosophies they embrace as tools to establish his presence. The reality is that the spiritual world influences the physical world far more than most realize, and ignoring this truth does not make one immune to its effects. Many unknowingly welcome the enemy into their homes through objects that carry spiritual significance, items associated with dark practices, symbols linked to false teachings, or artifacts that have been dedicated to forces opposed to truth. These things may seem harmless at first glance, but their presence can open doors to oppression, confusion, and strife. The enemy capitalizes on ignorance, knowing that as long as people remain unaware, he can continue his work unhindered. This war is ongoing, and every individual is a participant, whether they recognize it or not. The forces of darkness do not rest, and their goal remains the same: to steal, kill, and destroy. They exploit every opportunity to gain influence, using subtle means to gain entry and establish strongholds. Their strategy is not always direct confrontation, but gradual infiltration, slowly eroding values, distorting truth, and replacing light with shadows. The reality of spiritual warfare is undeniable, and its effects are evident in the world today. Every conflict, every act of hatred, every form of deception and destruction can be traced back to this unseen battle. It is a war that is older than time itself, yet it continues to rage with increasing intensity. Those who fail to recognize its reality are left vulnerable, unaware of the forces working against them. The enemy seeks to blind, to distract, and to ensnare, using any means necessary to keep people from realizing the truth. Understanding the existence of this warfare is the first step toward standing against it. Awareness alone, however, is not enough. The battle requires action, wisdom, and discernment. Many have unknowingly allowed the enemy to take territory in their lives simply because they have not recognized the signs of his presence. They have invited in things that should never have been given a place, and as a result, they experience struggles they cannot explain. The evidence of this war is everywhere, yet many dismiss it as coincidence or misfortune. There are many ways in which people unknowingly invite darkness into their lives and homes, often without realizing the consequences of their actions. These doors are not always obvious. In fact, they are often disguised as harmless habits, objects, or forms of entertainment. The unseen forces that seek to influence and oppress do not always make their presence known immediately. Instead, they work in the background, waiting for an invitation, a moment of vulnerability, or an opportunity to establish a foothold. The most dangerous aspect of these doors is that they often seem innocent, even beneficial, making it difficult for people to recognize the danger until it is too late. One of the most common ways these doors are open is through the things people bring into their homes, objects that carry spiritual significance, whether through their origins, purpose, or symbolism, can serve as gateways for dark forces. Many artifacts, statues, amulets, and charms have been dedicated to practices that are not aligned with truth. Some may have been used in rituals or ceremonies that invoke spirits, while others may have been crafted with the intention of channeling certain energies. These items may seem like mere decorations or souvenirs, but their presence can carry unseen consequences. There are countless stories of individuals who have experienced unexplainable disturbances, feelings of unease, or even direct spiritual attacks after acquiring or displaying certain objects in their home. These are not coincidences. They are the result of doors that have been unknowingly opened. Entertainment is another powerful means by which doors are opened without awareness. Music, movies, books, and even games can carry messages, themes, and imagery that are not only disturbing but spiritually harmful. Many forms of media celebrate violence, darkness, the occult, and immoral behavior, normalizing things that should never be accepted. Some music and movies go beyond simple storytelling and contain actual invocations, rituals, or references to practices that invite spiritual force. Lyrics and scenes that glorify evil, rebellion, or demonic influences are not just creative expressions. They can act as conduits for dark forces. The human mind is deeply affected by what it consumes, and when individuals constantly expose themselves to content filled with negativity, fear, and destruction, they unknowingly invite those same influences into their lives. Another door that is often open without realization is through spoken words and agreements. Many underestimate the power of words, not understanding that they carry weight in the spiritual realm. When people speak words of negativity, despair, or curses, whether over themselves, their families, or their situations, they align themselves with forces that seek to bring destruction. Likewise, engaging in practices such as consulting psychics, using tarot cards, or participating in rituals tied to the occult can create strong spiritual agreements that give dark forces the right to operate in one's life. These practices may seem like harmless fun or innocent curiosity, but they are far from it. The moment someone seeks guidance from a source outside of truth, they open themselves up to deception, allowing forces that do not have their best interest in mind to take influence. Unforgiveness and bitterness are another means through which doors are opened, though few recognize them as such. Holding on to anger, resentment, or past wounds can create a stronghold that allows darkness to take root. When people refuse to let go of offenses, they create a space where negativity can grow, affecting not only their emotions, but also their spiritual well-being. Many who struggle with unshakable sadness, heaviness, or anxiety do not realize that their unwillingness to forgive has created an open door. These emotions, when left unchecked, become entry points that can lead to oppression, making it difficult to experience peace or clarity. Certain cultural and traditional practices can also unknowingly invite unwanted influences. Many customs, though passed down through generations, have origins in spiritual practices that are not aligned with truth. Rituals performed in the name of protection, prosperity, or guidance often have deeper meanings than people understand. When individuals participate in these practices, even out of respect for tradition, they form agreements with forces that may not be working for their benefit. Without knowing it, people allow these influences to take hold, sometimes leading to unexplained struggles, misfortunes, or spiritual conflicts that seem to persist no matter what they do. Technology and the digital world have become another major avenue through which doors are opened. Social media, online content, and even certain trends expose individuals to influences that they may not fully comprehend. Many people spend hours consuming content that promotes negativity, rebellion, and distorted beliefs. The more they engage with these ideas, the more they internalize them, allowing their thoughts and behaviors to be shaped by forces they may not even recognize. The internet has made it easier than ever for people to access harmful content, engage in dangerous discussions, and become involved in practices that they may not fully understand. What may begin as simple curiosity can quickly lead to entanglement in things that are not easily escaped. Dreams and nightmares can also be indicators that doors have been opened. Many who experience recurring disturbing dreams, sleep paralysis, or an overwhelming sense of fear at night do not realize that something in their environment may have provided an entry point. These experiences are not always random. They can be signs of a deeper issue. The spiritual realm is active even when people sleep, and if a door has been opened, whether through objects, entertainment, or personal agreements, it can manifest in unsettling ways. Many people struggle with unexplainable burdens, heaviness, or confusion in their homes and personal lives, never realizing that they may have unknowingly allowed these things in. The enemy operates through deception, and his greatest strategy is to make people believe that these things are insignificant. By normalizing or dismissing these doors, people give darkness more room to work, often leading to struggles that they cannot seem to overcome. The process is gradual, subtle, and often unnoticeable at first, but over time, it becomes evident that something is not right. Not everything that enters a home carries the same weight, and not everything that appears harmless is truly innocent. Many people unknowingly allow influences into their homes that have a greater impact than they realize. Discernment is not just about making logical decisions or relying on personal feelings. It is a deeper awareness, a spiritual sensitivity that helps one distinguish between what is beneficial and what is harmful. Without discernment, it is easy to overlook the subtle ways in which darkness can creep into a home, disguising itself as entertainment, tradition, decoration, or even personal expression. A home should be a place of peace, a sanctuary where rest, joy, and security abound. However, many find their homes filled with tension, unexplained heaviness, or a sense of unrest without knowing why. These disturbances do not always have physical explanations. Often, they are the result of spiritual influences that have been given a place within the home. Discernment allows individuals to identify what does not belong, what carries an unseen weight, and what needs to be removed to restore balance and peace. It is the ability to recognize when something, even if it looks ordinary, is having an adverse effect. One of the key ways discernment operates is through an awareness of the spiritual significance of objects. Many items people bring into their homes carry more than just aesthetic or sentimental value. Certain symbols, artifacts, and relics have origins in spiritual practices that may not align with truth. Some are directly linked to rituals, ideologies, or belief systems that invite darkness. These items can act as points of attachment, giving unseen forces a place to operate. Without discernment, people often dismiss concerns about these things, believing that as long as they do not personally ascribe to the meaning behind them, they are harmless. But objects can carry energy, history, and spiritual connections beyond what the owner understands. Books, artwork, jewelry, and even clothing can sometimes serve as subtle gateways. There are stories of individuals who have experienced oppression, nightmares, or unease after introducing certain items into their homes. Sometimes these objects were gifts, sometimes souvenirs, and other times they were things bought simply out of curiosity or admiration. Yet without knowing it, these items brought with them a spiritual weight that affected the atmosphere of the home. Discernment is what allows a person to recognize when something does not belong, not based on fear or superstition, but on a deep sense of awareness that something is not right. Entertainment choices also play a significant role in what is allowed into a home. Many movies, TV shows, and music albums promote ideas that seem culturally acceptable but carry hidden dangers. Themes of darkness, rebellion, violence, and the occult are often woven into entertainment in ways that seem subtle but are spiritually significant. Certain forms of media contain actual invocations, chants, or imagery that invite negative influences. Many people experience anxiety, disturbing thoughts, or even sleep disturbances after engaging with certain forms of entertainment, never realizing the connection between what they consume and how it affects their home. Discernment enables one to recognize when a form of entertainment, no matter how popular or artistically well made, is introducing an influence that does not belong. Technology has expanded the ways in which outside influences can enter a home. The internet, social media, and digital content bring in voices, images, and ideas that can shape beliefs and attitudes. Many people unknowingly expose themselves and their families to spiritual influences through the things they watch, listen to, and participate in online. Discernment is required to filter out the content that brings negativity, confusion, or deception. It is not just about avoiding obviously harmful material, but also about recognizing the subtle ways in which certain messages, trends, and ideologies influence thoughts and behaviors. Another area where discernment is essential is in recognizing the effects of certain practices or traditions. Many cultural or family customs have deep-rooted spiritual connections that are not always immediately apparent. Some rituals, even if practiced with good intentions, have origins that invite forces that work against peace and truth. Discernment allows one to evaluate these practices, understanding whether they are beneficial or if they unknowingly invite harm. It is about questioning traditions rather than blindly following them, ensuring that nothing is done simply for the sake of familiarity without understanding the deeper implications. Relationships and the people allowed into a home also have an impact. Some individuals carry spiritual burdens, and their presence can affect the atmosphere of a household. This does not mean rejecting people or avoiding those who struggle, but discernment helps in recognizing when someone brings an influence that should not be entertained. Some friendships and connections may seem positive on the surface, but bring with them a spirit of negativity, manipulation, or spiritual heaviness. Discernment allows one to set boundaries, ensuring that relationships do not become an open door for destructive influences. There are also physical sensations and experiences that indicate when something is off within a home. Some people feel an unexplainable heaviness in certain rooms, hear noises without explanation, or have recurring nightmares that seem to intensify after bringing certain things into the house. Others notice an increase in arguments, tension, or emotional distress among family members. These are not always coincidences. They can be signs of a spiritual issue that needs to be addressed. Discernment is what enables one to recognize these patterns, tracing them back to their root cause rather than ignoring or dismissing them. Prayer and spiritual awareness play a crucial role in sharpening discernment. A person who actively seeks wisdom and clarity will often notice things that others overlook. Some things that once seemed normal will begin to stand out as problematic. Discernment is not about living in fear or paranoia, but about developing the ability to sense what does not align with peace and truth It is an internal alert system that helps guard the home against influences that should not be given a place. Many people only realize the significance of this when they experience a drastic change in their home environment after removing certain items, stopping certain practices, or changing what they allow in. Discernment is a skill that must be cultivated, a sense that grows stronger with use. The more one pays attention to the spiritual atmosphere of their home, the more they will notice when something does not belong. This is not about superstition or excessive caution, but about recognizing that everything carries some form of influence, and not all influences are neutral. A home should be a place of peace, a refuge from the chaos of the world, but without discernment, it can easily become a space where unseen forces operate without resistance. There comes a time when recognition alone is not enough, when identifying the sources of darkness and negative influences in a home must be followed by decisive action. Awareness without action leaves the door open for spiritual oppression to continue, for disturbances to persist, and for unseen forces to maintain their hold. The process of removal is not merely about getting rid of physical objects, habits, or entertainment choices. It is about breaking agreements, closing doors, and reclaiming a home as a place of peace and protection. Many people underestimate the power that lies in the act of removing things that do not belong. What may seem like a small step in the physical realm often has profound effects in the spiritual. Removing items that carry dark spiritual significance is one of the most important steps in cleansing a home. Many people unknowingly hold on to things that serve as open invitations for negative influences. Statues, artwork, books, jewelry, charms, and even certain souvenirs may have origins and practices that invite oppression. Some of these objects have been dedicated to spirits, used in rituals, or crafted with specific intentions that go beyond their outward appearance. Others bear symbols that may seem fashionable or culturally significant, but have deeper meanings that connect them to forces that should not be welcomed. The moment these objects are recognized for what they truly are, they must be removed, not as an act of fear, but as an act of authority over one's home and environment. Some people hesitate to remove such items because of their sentimental value or the financial costs associated with them. Gifts from loved ones, expensive artwork, and rare collectibles can be difficult to part with. Yet no amount of sentiment or monetary value is worth the unseen price of allowing an open door for spiritual disturbance. There are countless stories of individuals who struggle with unease, nightmares, or constant misfortune, only to experience an immediate change once they remove certain objects from their homes. This is because physical items can serve as points of contact, carrying spiritual energy that affects those who live in the space. Holding on to them out of attachment only prolongs the influence they bring. It is not enough to simply discard these objects. They must be destroyed or disposed of in a way that severs their connection completely. Some items, especially those tied to occult practices, should not be passed on to others or resold, as doing so only transfers the influence rather than eliminating it. Burning, breaking, or disposing of them in a way that renders them useless ensures that they no longer serve as a source of spiritual oppression. This act of removal is both symbolic and practical. It is a declaration that darkness is no longer welcome, that any influence connected to these objects is no longer permitted to operate. Beyond physical objects, there are other elements that must be removed from a home to restore spiritual purity. The kind of entertainment consumed within a household has a profound effect on the atmosphere. Many people allow movies, music, books, and games into their homes that promote violence, fear, immorality, and occult themes. These things are often dismissed as harmless entertainment, yet they shape the minds and spirits of those who engage with them. Certain horror films, for example, contain real invocations, demonic imagery, or glorifications of evil that go beyond mere storytelling. Music with lyrics that promote darkness, rebellion, or spiritual confusion carries an influence that affects emotions, thoughts, and even actions. Video games that immerse players in worlds filled with sorcery, ritualistic practices, or grotesque violence normalize things that desensitize the mind to spiritual realities. Removing these forms of entertainment is a necessary step in cleansing a home, ensuring that only Sometimes the things that need to be removed are not physical at all, but rather habits and behaviors that invite darkness. Many people unknowingly participate in practices that create spiritual openings. Consulting psychics, engaging in seances, using tarot cards, or experimenting with manifestation techniques rooted in deceptive teachings. Even if these things were done out of curiosity or without malicious intent, they still establish agreements in the spiritual realm. When someone realizes that they have engaged in such practices, the only solution is to renounce them completely, refusing to entertain them any further. Any books, tools, or resources associated with these practices should also be removed, as keeping them only serves as a Relationships and social connections can also be a major source of spiritual influence. Some people bring negativity, manipulation, or dark spiritual attachments into a home simply by their presence and behavior. If someone is consistently bringing division, encouraging destructive habits, or introducing harmful ideologies into an environment, their influence may need to be distanced. This does not mean cutting off every person who struggles or turning away from those in need, but it does require discernment in setting boundaries. Some relationships carry a spiritual weight that drains peace and creates confusion. Recognizing when a connection is unhealthy and taking steps to limit its impact is another way of removing spiritual burdens that may be affecting the home. Another significant step in the process of removal is breaking verbal and mental agreements that have been made knowingly or unknowingly. Words have power, and many people have spoken things over themselves, their families, or their homes that have lasting effects. Negative declarations, curses, or even self-defeating thoughts can create an atmosphere of oppression. Some people, out of frustration or habit, constantly speak words of fear, hopelessness, or destruction over their lives. These words do not simply disappear. They shape reality in ways that many do not realize. Breaking these verbal agreements requires actively rejecting them, speaking words of life and truth in their place, and refusing to allow negative declarations to continue. Spiritual removal is not a one-time action, but an ongoing process of guarding what is allowed into a home and into one's life. Many people experience temporary relief after removing certain items or habits, only to find themselves struggling again when they reintroduce similar influences. This is why true removal requires a commitment to maintaining a spiritually clean and protected space. It is not just about discarding what is harmful, but also about replacing it with what is good. Once negative influences have been eliminated, it is important to fill the home with things that bring peace, truth, and protection. When something is removed, it creates a space. When an object, habit, or influence that once occupied that space is taken away, something else must take its place. If nothing fills the void, it remains open, leaving room for the same or worse influences to return. Removing darkness is only the first step. The next is actively filling the void with light. This is a principle seen throughout life. Wherever something is uprooted, something else must be planted in its place, or the ground remains barren and vulnerable to being overtaken again. Many people make the mistake of focusing only on what they need to eliminate without giving enough thought to what they need to introduce. And as a result, they experience cycles of struggle, finding themselves facing the same problems repeatedly. True transformation requires not just the removal of negative influences, but the intentional pursuit of things that bring peace, clarity, and strength. One of the most powerful ways to fill the void with light is through the words that are spoken within a home. Words shape atmospheres. If a home has been a place where negativity, anger, fear, or hopelessness has been spoken, then it is no surprise that the environment has reflected those emotions. But just as words of darkness create an oppressive atmosphere, words of life and truth create an environment of peace and security. When people speak words of encouragement, gratitude, and truth in their homes, they change the very foundation of the space. This is not just a matter of positive thinking. It is a spiritual principle that what is spoken has power. Many people do not realize how their daily words shape the atmosphere they live in, replacing complaints with thankfulness, replacing fear with confidence, and replacing despair with hope does more than just improve one's mindset. It changes the entire spiritual tone of a home. What is allowed to enter a home through music, entertainment, and media also plays a crucial role in filling the void with light. If dark, negative, or fear-inducing content has been removed, it should be replaced with things that uplift, strengthen, and bring peace. Many do not realize how much of their internal struggles are influenced by what they consume daily. Songs that glorify violence, rebellion, or self-destruction affect emotions and thoughts far more than most people acknowledge. Television shows and movies that celebrate darkness, fear, or the occult leave lasting impressions. When these things are removed, it is important to replace them with content that promotes wisdom, joy, and encouragement. Playing uplifting music, watching content that inspires growth, and filling one's surroundings with messages of truth and positivity make a tangible difference. The objects within a home also contribute to the atmosphere. Just as certain items can carry negative influences, others can serve as reminders of light, peace, and truth. Art, symbols, and decorations that reflect hope and encouragement can transform a space. Many underestimate how much their surroundings affect their mood, thoughts, and even their spiritual well-being. Creating a space that reflects beauty, peace, and clarity strengthens the mind and spirit. Even the way a home is maintained plays a role. Clutter, disorder, and neglect can create an atmosphere of chaos, while cleanliness, organization, and intentionality bring a sense of stability and peace. The physical state of a home often reflects the internal state of those who live in it. Filling the void with light also requires intentionality in relationships and community. If toxic friendships and harmful influences have been removed, it is important to seek out connections that encourage growth, wisdom, and peace. Many people isolate themselves after removing negative influences, but isolation itself can become a breeding ground for doubt, loneliness, and confusion. Surrounding oneself with individuals who uplift, encourage, and speak truth strengthens both the individual and the home environment. Relationships play a powerful role in shaping one's life, and the presence of people who bring wisdom and peace is one of the most valuable things a person can cultivate. Another way to fill the void with light is through the thoughts that are entertained daily. Many people remove external influences without addressing their internal struggles. If dark thoughts, fear, or self-doubt are allowed to remain, they will eventually manifest in actions and habits that lead back into the same cycles. The mind is like a garden. If it is not actively cultivated with good things, weeds will naturally take over. Replacing destructive thought patterns with wisdom, gratitude, and clarity requires consistency. It means refusing to dwell on negativity, refusing to entertain fear, and making the decision each day to focus on what brings peace and strength. Habits and daily routines also play a crucial role in filling the void with light. If destructive habits have been eliminated, they must be replaced with practices that bring growth and stability. The way time is spent matters. Many people unknowingly waste hours engaging in things that drain them rather than strengthen them. Replacing idle or harmful habits with reading, learning, building relationships, or engaging in creative and meaningful activities transforms not just the individual, but the entire atmosphere of a home. What is done consistently will shape the direction of one's life. Even the smallest details contribute to filling a home with light. The way people speak to one another, the way they treat each other, the level of kindness and patience they show, all of these things either contribute to an environment of peace or to an environment of tension and strife. A home filled with warmth, laughter, and encouragement will always feel different from one filled with hostility, criticism, and negativity. Small daily decisions create the overall atmosphere of a space. Choosing kindness over irritation, choosing patience over frustration, and choosing gratitude over complaints all play a role in shaping a home into a place of peace. When a void is left unfilled, it does not remain empty for long. It will either be occupied by light or it will be overtaken by darkness once again. This is why it is not enough to simply remove what is harmful. What is good must be actively pursued. A home does not become a place of peace by accident. It requires intentional effort. Every choice, every habit, and every word spoken contributes to the environment that is created. When light is consistently chosen, it strengthens, protects, and transforms both individuals and the space they live in. Living a spiritually guarded life requires ongoing awareness, intentional choices, and a commitment to maintaining a strong foundation of peace, wisdom, and truth. It is not a passive existence, but an active stance against the unseen forces that seek to bring confusion, deception, and destruction. Many people assume that once they remove harmful influences and fill their lives with good things, they no longer need to be vigilant. However, spiritual guarding is not a one-time action. It is a daily practice, a lifestyle of discernment and protection. Just as a home must be continually maintained to keep it clean and secure, a life must be continually watched over to ensure that it remains a place of clarity, strength, and peace. One of the most critical aspects of living a spiritually guarded life is maintaining awareness of what is allowed into the mind, heart, and home. The world is full of influences that subtly shape thoughts, behaviors, and beliefs. Many of these influences do not appear harmful on the surface, yet they carry underlying messages that can weaken, distract, or mislead. Entertainment, conversations, relationships, and even daily habits all contribute to the formation of a person's spiritual state. It is easy to become desensitized to things that over time erode strength and clarity. A spiritually guarded life requires constant evaluation, always asking, does this bring light or darkness? Does this strengthen or weaken? Does this bring peace or confusion? If something does not align with truth and wisdom, it should not be entertained. Guarding one's mind is essential, as thoughts shape attitudes, decisions, and ultimately destiny. Many people assume that thoughts are random and uncontrollable, but this is not true. What the mind dwells on becomes what the heart believes, and what the heart believes becomes what is lived out. Allowing negative, fearful, or self-destructive thoughts to take root opens the door for emotional and spiritual heaviness. Living a spiritually guarded life means actively choosing which thoughts are allowed to stay and which must be rejected. Thoughts of doubt, fear, anger, and hopelessness should not be entertained. Instead, they must be replaced with thoughts of wisdom, confidence, clarity, and strength. This requires discipline, but over time, it becomes second nature. A well-guarded mind is one that is not easily swayed by deception or negativity. Another critical area of protection is the words that are spoken. Words have creative power. They shape the environment of a home, a relationship, and even a person's future. Many people unknowingly bring negativity into their lives by speaking words of defeat, fear, or anger. A spiritually guarded life requires a conscious effort to speak words that bring life, encouragement, and truth. This does not mean ignoring reality or avoiding difficult conversations, but it does mean choosing to speak with wisdom and intentionality. Words should be used to build up, not to tear down. They should reinforce peace, not create division. A person who guards their words guards their future, as what is spoken often determines what is experienced. Relationships also play a significant role in living a spiritually guarded life. Not every connection is beneficial. Not every person should have access to one's heart and mind. Some people bring encouragement, wisdom, and strength, while others bring confusion, drama, and spiritual heaviness. It is important to be discerning about who is given influence. This does not mean rejecting people or refusing to help those in need, but it does mean recognizing when a relationship is causing harm rather than good. Boundaries are necessary to maintain spiritual health. A guarded life is one that is surrounded by people who uplift and encourage rather than those who drain and manipulate. Choosing wise companions strengthens a person's ability to remain steady and unshaken. Living a spiritually guarded life also requires maintaining a strong internal foundation. Many people seek external sources of strength but neglect the internal disciplines that truly sustain them. Prayer, meditation, reflection, and studying wisdom are all necessary practices that keep a person spiritually strong. Just as physical exercise strengthens the body, spiritual disciplines strengthen the heart and mind. Without them, it is easy to become weak, easily swayed by circumstances, and vulnerable to deception. A spiritually guarded life is built on a foundation that is reinforced daily, not just in times of crisis. Strength is not developed overnight. It is built through consistency. A home should also be a place of spiritual protection. Many people focus on personal growth but allow their living environment to become a place of distraction, chaos, or negativity. A home should be a sanctuary, a place where peace is felt and where outside influences do not have control. This means being mindful of what is brought into the home, both physically and spiritually. The things that are watched, listened to, and spoken within a home shape its atmosphere. A spiritually guarded home is one where only things that bring peace, wisdom, and clarity are allowed to remain. It is a place that feels different, where negativity is not welcome, and where those who enter can feel the difference. One of the biggest challenges in living a spiritually guarded life is resisting complacency. Many people start strong, removing harmful influences and building positive habits only to let their guard down over time. They assume that because things feel peaceful now, they will always remain that way. But just as a house left unattended will eventually fall into disrepair, a life that is not continually guarded will eventually allow negative influences to creep back in. This is why vigilance is necessary. Being spiritually guarded means staying aware, constantly evaluating what is being allowed in, and being willing to make adjustments when necessary. Guarding against deception is another crucial aspect. The world is full of messages that appeal to emotions and desires, but ultimately lead away from truth. Many people are swayed by ideas that sound good on the surface, but have hidden consequences. Living a spiritually guarded life means testing everything, never accepting something simply because it is popular or appealing. It requires the ability to distinguish between what is beneficial and what is deceptive, even when the deception is subtle. Those who are spiritually guarded do not follow trends blindly. They question, analyze, and seek wisdom before making decisions. Another important aspect of a spiritually guarded life is the ability to recognize patterns. Many struggles, failures, and conflicts do not happen randomly. They follow cycles that can be traced back to specific choices, influences, or habits. Those who guard their lives take the time to examine these patterns, identifying where mistakes have been made and where adjustments need to happen. They do not repeat the same errors over and over again, expecting different results. Instead, they learn from experience, applying wisdom to avoid falling into the same traps. Recognizing patterns allows a person to break free from cycles of defeat and build a life of stability and strength. Maintaining peace is another key aspect of a spiritually guarded life. Peace does not mean the absence of challenges, but it does mean remaining unshaken in the midst of them. Many people live in a constant state of worry, stress, and conflict because they have not learned to guard their peace. A person who is spiritually guarded refuses to allow external circumstances to dictate their internal state. They do not react impulsively to every challenge or let anxiety control their decisions. Instead, they remain steady, knowing that their peace is not dependent on what is happening around them. Living a spiritually guarded life is a daily commitment, a continuous process of evaluating, protecting, and strengthening. It requires a mindset that is always alert, always seeking wisdom, and always aware of what is influencing thoughts, emotions, and surroundings. It is not about living in fear or paranoia, but about taking ownership of what is allowed to shape one's life. A guarded life is a life of stability, clarity, and strength, where nothing enters that has not been carefully examined, and where nothing remains that does not contribute to peace and purpose. Living a spiritually guarded life is not a temporary effort, but a lifelong commitment to maintaining clarity, strength, and peace. It requires constant awareness of what is allowed into the mind, heart, home, and daily life. Every decision, every word spoken, every thought entertained, and every relationship nurtured plays a role in shaping the spiritual atmosphere of a person's life. Guarding against negative influences, deception, and cycles of defeat ensures that darkness does not creep back in after it has been removed. True spiritual protection is not just about avoiding harmful things, but actively pursuing wisdom, truth, and light. A home and a life filled with intentional positivity, encouragement, and discipline will remain strong even in the face of challenges. The choices made each day, what to watch, what to listen to, what to speak, and who to surround oneself with, either reinforce spiritual security or leave gaps for confusion and distraction to enter. Complacency is the greatest enemy of a guarded life. It is not enough to remove what is harmful once. Vigilance is required to keep it from returning. Discernment must be a daily practice, ensuring that only what brings growth and peace is allowed to remain. Peace is not the absence of struggle, but the result of intentional choices that create a stable foundation, unshaken by outside forces. A spiritually guarded life is one of clarity, purpose, and strength. It is built through daily discipline, continual evaluation, and a commitment to filling every space mentally, emotionally, and physically with light rather than leaving room for darkness to return. By choosing wisdom over impulse, truth over deception, and peace over chaos, a life becomes a fortress, standing firm and secure regardless of the challenges that come.